All right, you guys. Well, I am going to go ahead and mute all of you. And we're going to get started here right away. And if you guys, hi, Anna, if you guys are realizing we're missing somebody, send him a quick message because there's one person I know, she already wrote me, she couldn't be on, but I think we're missing a couple. Laura, if you want to ping Chris, and then I know Danielle's with her kiddos, so she'll catch the recording, but I think everybody else is on. But nonetheless, Brent, I'm going to give you just a quick rundown on who these rock stars are and then turn it over to you guys. But we did a little sprint, a dash to director, and it was so effective, and they just caught such momentum. We decided to keep moving all the way through the executive deadline with the Crystal Reset. And this call is actually right before our team call. So this is not our whole team. This is a fraction of people that are just really hustling, full of grit, full of just passion and drive and kind of making that sacrifice. And it's fun because it's really been able to allow us to identify like who wants this and who's just so hungry for it. But it also, for you guys, when I bring on these speakers, it's been fun because you can just be a little more raw and real with them because they can handle it. You know, they're tough, they're in it, a little bit more experienced, but they have skin in the game. And I tell people that because they want it. You know, they had to buy into this, and there's certain requirements they have to do just to earn their money back. And then there's certain things along the way that I'll double it or triple what they had to put in based on the success of their business. And this last week with Cookies and Cream, it was just phenomenal. I can't wait to like celebrate the mess out of all of these people when we get onto our big team call. So that's just a little bit of background of who they are. So you can be unfiltered, you know, you can just really inspire them. You can be tough with them. This is a group that can absolutely handle it. And you guys, Brent and his wife Tracy are actually dear friends of mine in Isagenix. They are a part of our like Isa cousin family. So we all roll up to Janny. They're in a different organization, so I'm not linked to them. But I actually met Brent and Tracy flying to Top Achievers a few years ago in a thunderstorm in a tiny plane, and we were praying together. I definitely thought we were going down in this plane, and we just kind of bonded ever since then. So his wife was in real estate. Brent was actually in law enforcement for a very long time. They do Isagenix full time. They are Isagenix millionaires. And truly, when I think of our culture, they're humble, they're heartfelt, they're hardworking, they're fun. If you've ever seen Brent train on stage, he's an absolute riot. And it's a privilege to have him on here tonight. So Brent, with no further ado, I'm going to shut up, and I would love to introduce you with you just sharing your story. Like, talk to them, and not the 30-second version, like your story before Isagenix, what you thought in the beginning, how it kind of took off, like bring them up to speed.
No, cool. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. And yeah, we always joke about that original meeting and the fact that, I'm not kidding you guys, like this was a puddle jumper airplane, and it was a little bit sketchy of a ride for sure. So it's good stuff. And you know, the fact that you guys are all taking some time to be on here is really cool. And I'll give you an example of how cool that is. Like, you may not realize how special you are. So Lauren, I'll ask you a question. How many people are in your overall team, like your entire downline?
Just under 15,000.
Okay, so just under 15,000. So let's call it 15,000. You've got what, 12 people, 15 people on here? So you guys pat yourself on the back, right? Seriously, you're this much of the group that's actually doing it, because most people don't do it, right? So you want raw and real, most people will never, ever, ever, ever do this business at the level that you're doing it at. So the fact that you've either A, are doing it, or B, are committed to doing it says a phenomenal thing about you and your personality and just your openness to do it, because just most people they just won't, you know? So congratulations to all of you that are doing it, and Cookies and Cream is awesome, and there's some stuff coming up in July that's going to be awesome as well. So there's going to be some cool stuff going on, but I'll make sure Lauren's the one that tells you all that detail. So my story is that I started Isagenix in 2012. I started because a mentor friend of mine told me, they like, hey, you should try this nutrition, and I did. And I used it for 11 months. I was a horrible customer. I didn't stay active. I didn't worry about what I was buying. I never bought a pack to start. Sometimes I bought every month, sometimes I didn't. I just had no interest. And it wasn't that I wasn't interested in making the money. It's just that that's not what I was doing. I had recently retired. I'd done 21 years with Phoenix Police Department. At that time, I had retired from there already. and I was selling armored cars to places on nobody's bucket list. So I was traveling to West Africa and the Middle East and Honduras, and I was going to these places, meeting some rather interesting people and selling them armored cars for various reasons. And it was all fun and games until I left my malaria pills on the dryer at the house when I was in Nigeria. And my wife's like, that's not good. And so I'm like, oh, come on. So, so I did that. And my son was 7 years old at the time. And it just wasn't good for my wife and I's relationship. And it wasn't good for being a dad to be doing that. And so Isagenix kind of became available to me. And one other side note, because I talk about this a lot, is we had lost everything. We had owned a ton of real estate. When I was retiring from the police department, we had owned a ton of real estate. I actually retired from the police department, not because I was ready to retire, but I retired because I knew that I couldn't make enough money as a police officer with a job to pay off the amount of debt that we had accomplished. I'll show you my bucket. I keep it here on my desk. This bucket, that's full of credit cards, right? That's all chopped up credit cards, right? That whole thing, see that? That whole thing is over $100,000 worth of credit card debt. And just to kind of give you an idea of how big it is, like that's the top of my fingers and that's my forearm, right? So it's a lot of debt, right? So we had literally over $100,000 in credit card debt. And so when I was traveling to these places selling these cars, I was selling cars to big ticket cars because I knew that was the only way I could get out of the debt. So when I was told, hey, look, you should try to do Isagenix, I was like, that's not going to make the kind of money that I need to make, right? Like that's not what I need. And the person just kept saying, yeah, you should do it, you should do it. And I was at the same time, because I have to be doing something to keep myself in line. So I'd gotten started in triathlon, and I was doing triathlons and to keep myself consistent. And so I started sharing it with some people in my triathlon world, and I made a couple bucks. And my first check was like $212. And literally when I got the money, I laughed and I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with $212 when I've got $100,000 worth of credit card debt and I've lost everything and I got bill collectors calling me all the time. So I put it in my son's savings account because I'm thinking, well, at least they won't take it. When they take the rest of my money, maybe they won't take my money that's in my son's savings account. So the first few months, like I'd get paid a couple $100 or $50 or $25, and I would literally just put it in my son's savings account because I thought, well, if they come and the collector man shows up, they won't be able to take it from there, So Tracy finally said, you should really look at not doing the armored car business anymore. And I said, look, I'll do this network marketing thing, but she wanted to go to Celebration. And I'm like, I am not going to Celebration because there's going to be people there hugging people and laughing and wanting to smile and talk to you. And I'm a cop, right? Like, I'm like, no, I got my hand on my gun. I'm like, you want a hug? Here, I'll give you one of these, right? Because I'm like, no, that's not happening. So the whole concept of that was beyond me. And then you want me to get on social media and you want me to tell people who I am on social media? Are you kidding me? Right? Like I put like a lot of people in jail for a long, long time. Like I don't want them to know who I am, right? So that was a whole thing, right? But what the reality is that I wanted something, I knew something had to change, and I was so desperate that I was willing to do anything to make that happen. And the person that got me started in Isagenix was doing well, and I was like, well, let's look at it this way, because got a little bit of an ego, right? I'm like, shit, if they can do it, I can do it, right? So I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. So we finally started doing it. We went to Celebration, and in our world has changed ever since. I mean, that's a long version of my story, but that's who I am, and that's how we got here, because we decided to do it. And I didn't, and I tell people this, I didn't have a plan B. This was it. I was like, because if this isn't it, I'm going to run this, because I'm a hands into my pockets and jump head first kind of guy. So I stuck both my hands in my pockets, jumped in head first, and I knew that if I hit the ground, if I didn't make it, I'd have to find something else and do something else. But I wasn't going to try to hang on to this and do this at the same time. I was like all in. And so, yeah, that's how I'm at. So long version of the story, Lauren, but that's it. So.
It's so good. I'm so glad you did it. And like, honestly, when I do these, I'm always like learning something either about my friends or, in the business as well. I had no idea you were selling cars. Like that whole piece, I'm like, what? Like I never knew that, this whole malaria piece of the story. So I appreciate that. And, for everybody's why and the way about it, it's fun to get those stories. But one of the things that's so consistent with every single person that's ever gotten on to be a guest speaker is like just making that decision and going for it. And some people did it right out the gate. Some people did it a year after using the products, but just absolutely committing to that and getting over those fears or getting over those like, oh, I have to hug somebody or, oh, I have to post on social media. We all go through that, but really how important those avenues are to our success. So I'm gonna then lead into what you just teed up so perfectly for me. But when you say like we just made that decision and we just went for it, what did you do in the first maybe 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Like if you can remember, I know you've been doing Icegenetics for a while, but what did that really look like on your path to executive the very first time?
Well, when we decided, hey, look, we're going to do it, and I want you guys to know it was a staircase thing. It wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to do it, and I was there, right? So we, I made a few bucks, like I said, and was put in my son's account, and then, but when we finally decided, and we went to a celebration, and we really learned what the possibilities were, then I set markers for myself, and my markers were, if I can make this much money, then I'll quit doing this. If I can make this much money, then I'll quit doing this. And I didn't set my bars really high, right? Like I was like, look, I'll tell you the number. My number was, if I could make $5,000 a month, then I would quit doing anything else. Like I wouldn't do anything else. I would just do this business if I can make $5,000 a month. And that was my goal. And I focused 100% on that goal. So a lot of people are like, well, what's $5,000 a month look like? Well, $5,000 a month is you've got to be an executive, right? And so I had that in my head because I coach this all the time to my people. There's only 2 jobs in Icegenetics, only 2: become an executive and make more executives. That's it. There's nothing else special about it. That's it. You become an executive and you make more of them, because if you do those things, and Tracy and I have, in our primary position, we've made 7, and then in Tracy's position, because we've branched out onto that, and we've made 2 more there. So we've made 9 total executives, and that's our focus is to make, honestly, our focus is make 1 a year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but to make 1 good executive a year, it takes effort. So that's how we did it, Lauren. I mean, we decided executive was where it was at. And I won't lie to you, and I'm not saying it's always the best decision, but we have never fallen out. Like and it's cost me money. I won't tell you that it's always been, it's always been easy, but the money that you will work the hardest for is the money that you already have in your pocket. So when you're saying it's going to cost me $300 this month to stay at executive, it's like, I don't want to do that again. So you're going really, really hard to make sure that shit doesn't happen again. Right? And so you work really hard to not have to keep yourself at executive where your executive status is maintained. And I don't recommend it for everybody. It's a math. You have to know the math. You have to know the amounts and what it makes sense to do it. But I'm a big believer in becoming an executive and staying there.
You guys, I'll just elaborate just a teeny bit on that because I know you guys a little bit better. And like, I know Kisa and Laura and Rachel are probably like totally understanding what Brent's talking about. And some of you are like, what, huh? In the very beginning, when you're on this run, maybe from director to executive, okay, like you might say, like, I've created 10 consultants in this time frame, and I have the 5 on my left, and I've had the 5 on my right, but not all active at one time, And it's like, oh my gosh, if this was a week and you were going for it, and let's say Jules had 8, right? And she had a pirate on each side, and one of her people had stopped ordering, well, we might encourage her to run an order through those people just to kind of get there and throw her into that momentum. That isn't something that would look like in the very beginning. Or for people right now who are maintaining executive, like Jenny always taught me, executive is 10 and 10. It's not 5 and 5. Like at minimum, it's 10 on the left, 10 on the right, so that you have this safety net. But when you're building to that point, right? And let's say, Laura's paid as executive, and she might have 8 or 9 or 10 consultants on her left side, but let's say she only had 5 on her right, and someone went into Grace, and she doesn't want to fall out of it. she can strategically, instead of running cookies and cream through her own account or her husband's account, through someone in her organization, where that volume moves through everybody and everybody's getting paid along the way, but it keeps her as an executive status. So what Brent's saying is that money is going to come back anyways, and just to be a little bit strategic with it. And that's where you can really lean on some of your leaders here to help you with that. But I agree with it wholeheartedly. And if you treat your business like a business and either use some of the promotional money, some of the bonus money that is all in addition to the compensation plan anyways, to give back to your team, you would do that in any other business. And so I love that you brought that up, because it really is a standard, and to realize why that's so important. So Brent, I'm actually I wasn't planning on asking you this question, but I totally believe in a culture of executive too. I think that's when the compensation opens up. I think that people trust you. It shows the type of leader you are. I mean, why would you say, in your words, what's the importance of going executive? Like, what's the value? And I would love for you to even bring up the conversation we had, if you remember. I think we had cocktails, but Ingrid came in when we were talking about why the 1-star, pools, and like shifting into kind of what we're doing now, like why that's so beneficial for everybody.
Well, there's a couple things. One is, if you decide, if you truly make the decision that you're going to run this as a business, then I use a 10% rule. 10% of my income is dedicated toward whatever, as far as like, it's either dedicated towards maintaining executive, doing plans for my team. I'm going to reinvest 10% of my money back into my company, right? 10% of it. I'm not keeping it. It's not even going to be close to mine. It's 10%. So 10% of my money goes back into my company in some way, whether I'm buying product, whether I'm helping somebody rank advance, whether I'm running an incentive or something along those lines. And 10%, and here this goes towards tithing, right? If you're not willing to invest 10% now because you're only making $100 a month, don't fool yourself. You're not going to do 10% when you're making $100,000 a month either. Okay? Because when you're making, if you're not willing to invest 100 when you're making 1,000, you're not going to invest 1,000 when you're making 10,000. You just won't, right? Because it's something that you start from the beginning. And the same thing with tithing. People say, oh, well, I'm going to tithe to my organization, my church, my nonprofit, whatever it is that you want to give to. You're not going to give then if you don't give now. Because if you don't give when it's hard, you damn sure aren't going to give when it's easy, right? It just doesn't work that way. You might think you will, but you won't, right? So, but at executive, the reason that executive is so important is that it gives you a place to speak from, right? It also gives you a validity when you're running it as a business. So your write-offs and things like that. But you're also getting 10% match on everything that your personally enrolled get. Okay, so if you're not familiar with this, you take all of your consultants, right, at every Sunday, and you add up all of their cycles, all your personal consultants, you add up all their cycles. So let's say that you've got 10 consultants and they all cycle one time each. Well, that's 10. So Isagenix gives you 10% of that number. So you're going to get one extra cycle, okay, every week, because you got 10 cycles total, okay, because they're going to give you 10%. If your group collectively cycles 100 times, then you get 10 extra cycles, okay? The person that enrolled me, they're making, any place between $400 and $600 a week just off of the 10% match that they get from me, because of how much I cycle every week, right? And that's why you've got to become an executive, and getting somebody that you personally enrolled to executive, that's huge. Getting somebody that you personally enrolled to cycle and make money, that's huge.
If you guys, the more you understand the compensation plan, the more you won't be able to sleep. I just watched this call that Lindsay Winia had on how she vision casts and broke down like the 10 ways that we get paid. I'm like, 10, in different ways. And I love what she's talking about, like PIBs separate from double PIBs. But this executive match, this is why we always say don't create your consultants either. And to really do that, because you don't want to give a rock star away. So if you look at my organization, not mine, but my upline, Janie Elos, right? And she sponsored Betsy Frame, who's a millionaire. She maxes out every week 250 times. She sponsored Kelly Dickerhoof. She maxes out 250 times every single week. And she's just personally enrolled those people, take the 10% off of that. You can have it each week up to 250 cycles in executive matches, which is how much you can cycle in your business. So when you understand that volume, that's how when they say in one compensation week, right, in one business, you can make $27,000 or $27,500. You know, it's $13,000 this and then double because of the matches. That if Kelly was not personally enrolled to Janny, if she was like, oh, I'll just put her underneath this girl, I'm going to help her get to consultant. Think about long-term money, how much she would have given up every single week, every single month, every single year by giving someone away. And that's why it's so important. You just never know who's going to do this business. And that is so huge. I mean, my matches are higher than most people's organic business every single week from being paid as executive. Like it is game-changing money. It's not like a pib here, a little pib there. So I love you're talking about that. Brent, I know you talked about at the beginning, like, oh, I don't want to post on social media. There's actually a lot of people here that struggle with that, either the rejection or they're annoyed by it or whatnot. How has that changed your business, and what advice do you have for people to really be consistent with that?
Well, I coach 80-10-10 rule, right? People are voyeurs, right? People want to see what you're doing, but they don't want to do anything themselves, right? So your social media needs to play to that. So 80% of your posts need to be who you are, right? Your dog, your cats, your kids. I coach it on faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun, right? You can post on those all day long. Your faith, your family, your fitness, your finances, and your fun, right? So those 5 F's, if you're ever looking for, oh, what should I post about? Find one of those, right? So you take one of those topics and you make a post on it, okay? 80% should be that, because people are voyeurs. They want to learn you. Who do you do business with? People you like. Why do you like them? Because you know them. If your network doesn't know you, then why do you expect them to do business with you? So you've got to show them who you are. Your faith, your family, your fitness, your finances, your fun, right? Good and bad. You don't always want to be like the, Instagram picture, right? So you've got to talk about those things. So that's 80%. The next 10% is you need to become the person in your network that you're like the go-to person for healthy kind of stuff, right? Like workouts and healthy recipes and healthy ideas and, why an aspirin is good or bad, or why Tylenol is good or bad, or why, kale is good or bad. Here's a good one. You know why you should always use coconut oil with your kale? Because it scrapes off into the trash easier, right? But you want to become that person for your network that gives great, healthy ideas, right? You just want to be that person. And then your last 10% is Isagenix, right? Like my network knows that I do Isagenix, right? They know that. And they know, and if I met one of my friends was walking down the street and they had an Isagenix shaker bottle in their hand and they didn't get it from me, I'm gonna be mad as hell. I mean, like, how did you get a shaker bottle and not get one from me, right? Because, and what happens to a lot of you are going, your friends walk up to you and they go, oh yeah, I tried Isagenix and I got it from Susie. And you're like, well, why didn't you get it from me? Oh, well, I just thought you used it. I didn't know you sold it, right? And you're gonna hate that because it's just, and it's because you didn't tell anybody, because you're like, oh, I'm not gonna tell anybody, right? I'm just gonna use it. I'm not gonna tell anybody. Because if that's who you are, then don't be mad when the person walks up to you and says, yeah, and I bought a value pack from, I don't know, I bought that pack from them, that big pack that's got all the stuff in it. I got everything, and you're gonna be going, yeah, and then I brought my sister and my mom and they love it and they're having a great time with it, and you're gonna go, right? And it's all because you just never told anybody that that's what you're doing. So yeah, so that's my 80-10-10 rule.
I love it. I love the way you break that down. And I've heard something similar, but actually never that way. As I wrote the breakdowns in the chat too. So feel free to kind of take those notes. And I think it's good. And we have done a great job, through Kisa and Laura, really talk about like putting your brands. Like we always know that Laura's our dog person on social media and like Kisa's our taco girl and those types of things. But I love the way that you phrase the 10%, not the Isagenix part, but that you're the go-to person. And we really have been talking more about that of just how are you adding value, and that it's not just about like, ooh, what do I have to sell and who's going to buy this, but like, what can you add? And if you're the go-to person that people are trusting you in that arena, like, I love that. I think that that's absolutely great advice. So what would you say, if you could say your top 3 tips to go executive, or if you had someone up and running right now, I was like, Brent, I'm going for it. I'm hitting the deadline on the 12th. What would you suggest for them to do?
So I'm all about strategy, right? So I don't like to work hard. I prefer just to figure it out and kind of take the shortcuts if they're available, right? I was like the B student, right? I graduated high school with a 2.72 and I was killing it, right? So my thought is if I can figure out how to kind of maneuver it, right, and make it work. So my strategy is going to be, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to go over who my people are, and I'm going to, but now I recognize how many people won't do something, okay? How many people won't, they're just not going to do it. They're not going to become a consultant, right? They're not going to become a manager. They're just not. So you've got to, your numbers have got to be higher. And the reason that, and the only reason that I'm here talking to you guys is just because I've been told no more than you guys have been told no, right? I've asked more people to be in Isagenix than you have. That's the only reason that Lauren asked me to come on in here and talk. And the only reason I'm, that we make what we make in Isagenix is because I've been told no more times. But I came from a place that I needed, I truly needed this business to work. And so I was willing to be told no, right? I was willing to recognize the fact that, and this sounds a little flippant, but it's true, that person's telling me no. They're not writing a check for my mortgage. They're not paying my house payment. They're not paying for my car payment. They're not going to pay one of those credit cards off for me. And they're saying no, doesn't matter, because I got to find the next person that is willing to say yes, right? Because I need to have that happen. So your strategy has to, you have to track. And it's actually really funny that they've changed the leader in action format to what they changed the leader in action format to. Because for the last year, I've been coaching my team to do and Lauren, you may do something similar to this. My phone's my watch is yelling at me. My team has been submitting to me, kind of like this group of people, has been submitting to me their leader in action form every week. But what we were doing before is I was using the old criteria, but we were using addition across the bottom instead of multiplication. So we would let them add up their points across the bottom. And if they got a certain number of points, then we had what we call the high five club. Okay. So if you got 10 points or more through addition, then you're part of the high five club. Or if you enrolled 5 people every month, then you're part of the high five club. So 5 enrollments or 2 enrollments and 10 points, both of them got you the same thing. So you had to have 2 enrollments and a total of 10 points on the leader in action form, or a true 5 enrollments of 100 BV or more. That puts you in the leader in action, the high five club. That high five club was easy stuff. It wasn't crazy, but it was progressive. So, you got a hat, you got a book, you got a tablecloth, all that kind of stuff along the way in the high five club. And that's what is going to identify the people on your team that are wanting to do something. You cannot provide motivation. You can only provide inspiration. Okay, I can provide inspiration to you, but I can't provide motivation to you, right? Because otherwise it looks like me with a cattle prod, right? And if I'm running a cattle prod, I can only hit so many of you at the same time to make you run in the direction I want you to run. And then I'm just going to get tired of it. And you're going to get tired of me shocking you with the cattle prod, right? So, but I can inspire and then see who steps up to that level of inspiration. Because if I provide inspiration and you're like, that's really cool, I want that too, then I can identify you and we can run together, right? And that's, so when you're trying to figure out who's going to run on your team, you guys don't try. Set your inspiration, whatever it is. And I'm a red, right, in the categories, right? But I've had to learn how to recognize blues and recognize whites and recognize yellows. And I've had to learn how to approve. I've had to learn how to get their approval, right? The person that their love language, if you will, is hugs and recognition. I've had to learn how to do that better because I'm not great at it, right? But I've had to learn how to do that. And you guys need to learn how to do that too. For the people that you enroll on your team, you telling them that they're going to make $900 for the month, they may not care. But you tell them that you're going to say amazing things about them on a team call and that you're going to, send them a cool little, artsy thing in the mail, they may think that's just amazing, right? So you've got to find what turns your people on and provide that to them to make them feel recognized and want it again. Whether they want to get paid again or whether they want to get that trinket in the mail again, whatever it is, you've got to make sure that you know what that is. And that's the toughest thing for me. Anyway, I hope that answers your question, but because getting to executive isn't easy. And for those of you that are getting close, or those of you who hit it, congratulations. Because what you're really wanting to do is you've got to learn how to inspire those people to want that more, right? They wanted a consultant. Why? Because they wanted $100. Okay, let me show you how to get $200. They wanted a consultant because they wanted the hat from Isogenics or whatever the hell it is that they get for a consultant, right? They want that. I'll send you a hat. Let's go to manager, right? Find out what that is and send it again.
I love that. That's so true. And I was just having a conversation actually with a guy who's on this call the other day about how to really incentivize your team and figuring out what drives them and what people will work for. And like to this day, I would work so hard for Lululemon. Like that was, Janie would just like dingle it over. And I would like never want to spend $100 on a hoodie myself. But I was like, what? I have to bring in 3 people and you're going to mail me one? Like game on, and a lot of people could care less about that. And they're the ones that if like they could just spend time with you, they'll, go to the moon and back. And that's so true when you're working with people of really getting to know them. And I actually just stuck the color code into our little executive page, you guys. And I would love for you to take it this week and just tell me what you are. Because it's always shocking and you might think you are one way or the other, but that's such great advice in your leadership and just understanding not only what drives you, but then what drives other people. So Brent, if I can keep you for like a couple more minutes, I have 2 other questions for you. But I'd love to know, how do you handle wall kicking moments? You don't become an Isogenics millionaire and stay in this for 8 years and it just be like smooth sailing. So what's your advice for those frustrating times?
The thing I'll tell you guys is it's easy when it's easy, right? When the things are going great and you're making lots of money and you're rank advancing people and you're doing all these things, that's when it's easy, right? When all this stuff's happening to you. The hard times is when I'll give you an example because nobody from my team's on here, so you guys can't tell me. Or you could tell them, but you won't know who it is. So I asked somebody to be on a team call like what Lauren asked me to be on this call, and it was somebody from my team, and I said, hey, could you hop on and talk about this because you've done really well this week, last week in this, and this, right? They had done really well in enrollments. They'd enrolled like 7 people in like the last, 2.5 or last 2 weeks or something. So I'm like, hey, I said, I want you to get on. I want you to talk about this. And their response to me was, and this is somebody that I've had to learn that their language is recognition, right? So I knew that this might be a good thing because I need to recognize them. And I thought through letting them talk on the team that might be good. And their response back to me was, I'm just not feeling it. They said they would do it, but then that day, the day of the team call, they sent me a message. They said, I'm just not feeling it. That was their response about getting on and doing the call. Hey, I just don't think I can be on the call. I'm just not feeling it. Now, I'll tell you guys, and Lauren's done the same. I've done a team call every Tuesday, 6 o'clock, Arizona time, for over 5 years. Every Tuesday. I promise you, I can count the number of times I haven't done a team call on one hand, right? Because it's landed on Christmas or something like that, right? Outside of that, I've done them. I've done them from cruise ships. I've done them from vacation spots. I've done them from my truck because I'm on a drive in someplace, but I have done the team call every Tuesday. I've done the team call when I've hated it. but I've wanted something else to do, but I've still done it. So when I got that message and they said, I'm just not feeling it, first, I did some wall kicking, and then I took a deep breath, and then I called them. And I said, let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about what you're not feeling. Because what you're not feeling is you, and what you need to be thinking about is the others. You're not doing it I'm not asking you to do this for you. I'm asking you to do this for the benefit of the crowd, right? I'm asking you to do this for the benefit of your team. So when you're not feeling it, when you have that wall kicking moment, then I want you to think about these people that you have enrolled into your Isagenix business, and these people that you've told that you're going to do this and that you're in it to win it, and that these people that you've brought along and the people that they signed up only because of you, and realize you got to do it again. Not for you, but for them. And that's how I get through wall kicking moments. Because I know if I'm thinking about it, it's about me, it's not about me. Okay? It's not. And that's how you get through a wall kicking moment, because it's not about you. Because as soon as you take the you out of it, then all of a sudden it feels like something that you need to get done. And you'll get it done. You will quit on yourself before you'll quit on others. And that's also how I bring people in when I talk to them about bringing somebody in, when I enroll somebody, right? If I enroll Lauren, then I'm like, Lauren, you need to bring somebody in. I don't really have anybody. Come on. Here's why I want you to bring somebody in. I'm not asking you to bring somebody in because of you. I'm telling you, if you bring somebody in, you're going to do more, because Lauren will quit on herself before she's going to quit on her two friends. And if you tell people that, that's the reason they need that's the reason they need an accountability partner or more, because they will quit on themselves before they're going to quit on somebody else. And that's my wall kicking moment, is get the you out of it.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And it's so true. I mean, we all wrap in and get in those moments and make it about ourselves. And if you continue to just make it about other people. And I love that you called him and then you just have that heart to heart, because there's a lot of different directions that whole thing could have gone. I wasn't quite sure what the final story was going to be.
I had a direction for it to go at first, because my first instinct was, kidding me?
I love it. Okay, so then here's the last one. Being in Isagenix now, 8 years, you've had extreme success, and you are in one of the most successful teams in all of Isagenix. If you could go back and do it all over, what is the number one thing you would absolutely do, and what's the number one thing that you would not do over?
One thing I would absolutely do. I would say the thing that, and this is something I'm horrible at even to this day, but you can't see it from here. I'll show it to you if you guys really want to see it. On our wall in our hallway, here, I saw it not, so here, I'll show you. This is what I would have done more. I got to make sure there's nobody in our hall. My son's home and my wife's home. Yeah. So, see that in my hallway?
Yeah, we can see it.
Right? This piece of butcher block paper hanging in my hallway with our leader in action stuff going on. Right? Actually, there's a consultant missing. We've got another consultant already. But when you walk by the hallway, it floats. Right? So when you walk past it, the air catches it from when you're walking by, so it floats and it reaches out and touches you. It's not taped to the wall completely, it's just taped to the wall at the top. And the reason that we leave it that way is because it reminds you that, hey, you got stuff to do. Right? So if I had it to do all over again, I would, and I'm not great at it every time, and we only do it when Isagenix is running a contest, but I would be more consistent with tracking what I'm doing, more consistent with keeping the people that I've most recently enrolled at the top of my mind. I would be more consistent with making sure that the people that I've enrolled, every single person knows that consultant is a possibility, that they can make some money by becoming a consultant. I would make sure that I followed up better. I'm a great example, right? How many of you have enrolled somebody over a year ago that you've lost contact with because they haven't been doing anything? Okay, I was that person. Okay, so you've just left me, right? And I was open to doing it, I just never did it. So you've got to stay in contact with those people to make sure that you didn't leave somebody behind that you probably should have like at least like said, hey, you know, this is still going on. You know, you're still part of my reminder group. You're still part of my, I'd love to have you in my team group kind of person. So that would be the number one thing that I would do. I would do a better job of tracking and paying more attention to the people I enrolled. Because I mean, we've enrolled a lot of people and I've left a lot of them behind. We just have. And even to this day, I still have. So I'm not perfect at it. That's just what we've done. And what was the other one? What would I not do?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think that I have it down. You know, I mean, we do really well, but I don't think that I've got it down. So there's probably plenty of stuff that I shouldn't do that I do. The stuff that I've done has gotten us some level of success, and some of the, I'm pretty, like, I've got a short memory. My wife will tell you the same. So when I do something and it's a failure, I just kind of write it off, right? Because failing is part of the game, man. You know, if you're not willing to fail, I mean, that's not any fun, right? I mean, stick your hands in your pockets and jump in and see what happens. You know, I'm all about that. So I don't know what I wouldn't do. I don't know.
That's awesome. You know what? And that's that you guys, you can see how unscripted these are. And I love it because that's true. You grow from it. And I think it's Jimmy Smith, you know, that always talks about that, like, your failures like build your character, you know, and like the success will give you a rank or whatever. And it's so true. And those moments, I mean, if you go back and did them over, you wouldn't be where you are today. You wouldn't have, you know, the grit, you wouldn't have the skill set, you wouldn't have the ability to teach other people. And I just love that. So I'm going to unmute everybody so that they can send some joy and thank you to you guys. But I want you guys to hang tight for just a minute. I've got a couple of things for you once we let Brent go. So you guys stay on, but please thank him for all of his time and wisdom tonight.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Hey, congratulations. Good luck to all of you. Love to see you all rocking the executive status. That'd be fantastic. So nice work.
Thanks, Brent. Tell Tracy hi.
All right, I will.
You guys stay on for just a second. Thanks, Brent.
All right, we'll see you guys.
Bye. You guys, I will just tell you, I'm going to actually mute you all just so the recording stays clean. One of the things that I love so much about going to events, and Laura's going to talk about this a little bit more in our team call, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but you see all of the walks of life doing this business successfully. And if that doesn't build your belief of like, there is not one way to get there and how incredibly possible this is for everybody, like, I don't even know what does. And that's one of the reasons that when I've planned out who's going to be the guest speakers, both for the director dash and the executive dash, like, I've tried to pick some younger people, some older people, some women, some men, you know, and just to be able to say, like, there is no right way. And there are things that you are going to hear consistently, like they made the decision, right? Or you're tracking your business, or you're on social media or whatever. And then there's things that everybody does differently and everybody's personality. But the other thing I want you to kind of just take away from this right now is the abundance of the people out there. In the same way, I think you've heard me reference that I think prospecting is kind of like dating. The people that I attract in are not necessarily the people Laura's going to attract in, or Liz, or Kari, or Sherry, right? And like, your vibe attracts your tribe, that saying. And that's why our team has so much diversity in it, because we're all different. And the people that totally jive with me, and I'm a red, and I'm a numbers person, I'm just direct, and I want to get shit done, right? They might not really jive with Alex, who's like so loving, and, you know, she's more patient and more compassionate, and she wants to, you know, do all these things. And I'm like, what? Like, I'm too busy. Like, and that's the awesome part of this, is how incredible our team is. And I love to just be able to bring some people on so you guys can see that, because I hope that it's building belief in you, that you're resonating with someone. And I remember watching Susan Fly, like when I first started in 2014, I'm like, that woman's amazing, right? And the person next to me was like, why is she yelling at us? And I'm like, you think she's yelling at us? Like, I was like so endorsed. And then the next person, you know, will listen to like Hagedorn and be like, she's incredible. I'm maxing out this compensation plan. And the other person's like, man, she's kind of boring. You know, I mean, that's the beauty of this, is just to like totally see what resounds with you, what excites you, what you relate to, and to say, I can do that too, right? Like, I'm willing to learn the hard skills. And one of the best things truly for me right now out of that call was him saying I wouldn't do anything different, because there's ownership in learning from those mistakes and learning from the things that were like a little bit less than perfect, you know, which is so, so cool. So I'm trying not to go into any of the things that I want to talk about in the team call today. I'm like looking at my like notes for in the next 15 minutes. Because I don't want that to be redundant for you. But there is one thing I really want to address for this kind of unique group before we get into the team call. And it's this idea of like really making that decision, okay? And so I'm very inspired by people on our team right now through Kisa's organization. Like they have me motivated, you know, and you'll hear people say like hot molecules attract hot molecules, or like that energy is infectious, you know? And what's interesting from like, I'm not going to say an outsider, you guys are my organization, but not really being directly involved, like where I've done my own challenges, my own ranking dancing things, my own blitz, and I'm trying to drive it. Like this was all implemented on their own. I was fortunate enough to be like included in the celebration and like watching it all, right? This was all kind of happening on their own. But the interesting part is that many of them are not new, right? And so like when I sit here, I'm like, why now? You know, like Kisa's been doing this a while, Jenny's been doing this a while, Marla's been doing this a while, Kimberly's been doing this a while. Like Amy and Liz are new, right? But I'm like, many of them are not. And so part of it's that new energy, and they're excited and they catch momentum, and that makes it fun for anybody. When you have someone you've directly enrolled and you're downline who's new and excited and on fire, like that'll motivate you, because you see that passion again, you see that excitement, and you remember how you felt when you first started. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense, right? Like I can see the new energy coming in and that fueling the organization. But there's this idea too of like burning desire, and that like I heard Brent say, and you've heard Hillary say it, and these leaders say like I made a decision. Like you either reached a point that you didn't have any other options, right? Like that was my story. Like I had to do this. I was in such a rock and a hard place. Or when like Tony Robbins talks about like the pain outweighs the gain, like you hit a time in your life where either you don't have the time freedom you want, you don't have the money you want, you hate your boss, you are hating commuting, something happens that you just like make that switch. And that's partially what I've seen in Jenny, which I'm going to interview her about, which is awesome, because then there's more contagious energy. But the thing that I want to leave you guys with the most is how important accountability is, and belief in other people. Like you have heard me say this over and over, that Jenny poured such belief into me way before I was doing anything. And she just poured that into me, like I was like, this lady's delusional. Like she's never even met me. Like, why does she tell me all this stuff? But I would start doing things and I was like, man, that woman's got like a crystal ball. Everything she says comes true. And I started doing things, and then she would teach me how to do that to other people. You know, like when Kisa first came into my organization, and I don't say this to everybody, but I was like, you will train on stage. You will be a 6-figure income earner in the company. And she kind of was like, okay, lady. I mean, it was like, I watched that happen, and then things would start to happen. She had executive and 1-star and 2-star, and she became a 6-figure income earner, right? And you look back and how important that is. And that's what I really watched this group do over the weekend, was they were relentless until the last minute of last night with the back office closing. Didn't stop, man. I know Marla's order went in at 1 minute after midnight, and that's like that, just the excitement that happens. And they were on Zoom. It's been over 30 hours in 3 days, staying on the Zoom, just locking arms, like you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. And I was not on those, and I'm making a huge assumption here because I've done it in the past. I can only imagine the amount of rejections that happened and the amount of those reach outs. How many people that didn't answer right away? If I'm right, you girls should type in the chat. But people that they thought were going to enroll that didn't, people that didn't answer their phone, people that didn't respond to ATMs, people that weren't interested. But it's like they didn't stop. Like they had absolutely committed and worked together as a unit to make sure every single one of them achieved their goals. And it's fun to watch. And so I'm bringing that up specifically for this group and not the whole team, because you guys have opted in, right? Like you've said, like, I want this so bad. And we have just over a month away to the Crystal Executive deadline, right? And it's possible for everybody, but then you have to be very real with yourself and say, what am I going to do in the next 4 weeks to either replicate what I've done right now, because it's going great and I'm not going to change it because I'm going to get there, but what do I need to shift? Like what has to change, you know? And I want you guys, when you think about submitting that form, you know, and I had a few emails of people that were so kind to write if like for whatever reason why it didn't happen. I'm like, I'm not micromanaging it, right? Like the form is not to like give you guys a grade, it's accountability, but I want there to be thought process. Like, did I reach 10 people? What are their reasons they're saying no? To then provoke a conversation of like, hey, can you help me with these types of objections? Like, what's the next step, right? It's not just to send it in, but to say like, okay, I seem to be getting the price objection a whole lot. Maybe I should work on this. What's happening in my presentation that I'm getting that? Or I'm getting the, I don't want to do shapes, or I don't want to do network marketing, or, you know, you told them too much that they got freaked out, whatever it is. Like, I want there to be a little bit of reflection in those 10 reach outs. So not only did you do them, but to see what the common denominator is, right? So I'm just being really honest with you guys. Like, I don't want you to just write 0 and send it in, like I did my homework, but like, why? Like, if you're talking to 10 people, why do you think not even one of them was super excited to kind of join Isagenix? And the other is to really just hold yourself accountable to your best standard. And I am obsessed with Tony Robbins. Not everybody likes him, right? And that's okay. I do. I love him. I would go to all of his seminars every single year if I could. But one of the things he talks about is like, you'll live your life for the standard you set. And for me, like health and wellness, I don't want to be average. Right? Like my friends will tease me. They get annoyed. I get annoyed if I go work out with someone who's like barely trying. And Laura's the opposite. Like I've actually told her this because it used to be my fiance. And she's like, you should really just cheer him on that he's doing anything. You should just be happy. And I'm like, no, like you need to like work your butt off. Like I would get frustrated because I don't like people showing up as anything less than their best. Right? And I think about that when I have friends over. Like my friends tease me because I won't ever just put like salsa and sour cream out into the jar if I have a taco bar. Like I am about presentation, and I think that that's important, that attention to detail. So there's a standard of excellence of like, I don't run around town not feeling dressed and ready. Like I want to meet people and feel confident. It's not bougie, it's not fake, but that's my best foot forward, right? That's how I feel confident. That's how I've branded myself. It's how I present food. It's how I show up when I work out. It's how I prepare for a call. I mean, I was on another leaders call in Australia last night. You guys, I was like nervous as shit. Like I was like texting Kisa and Laura. I was like, why do I feel like I'm about to present at an event? Because I'm on this call in Australia. I mean, but that's because that pressure, and you show how it is. So the reason I'm sharing this is because you guys opted in. And I know that I said, hey, like the $100 is not necessarily like executive or not, right? But it was to push you, it was to get you further, it was to get you out of your comfort zone. But I just want you to like spend a little bit of time and like, did I put my best foot forward this week? And could I have done more? Right? And if you did, right? And like, we're going to talk all about Jenny and Jules and, you know, Kisa and all these girls' success on our next call. But that's because their best foot is forward. And if not, then say like, why am I really doing this? And if you really are just cool, like very casual and part-time, that's awesome. There's no judgment. But if you're really hungry for more and you know in your gut, you could be doing a little bit more, be real with yourself and then just pivot on what do I have to do. And so I'll leave you with this before we launch into our team call. I was driving to brunch yesterday with Ryan, and I'm in Lindsay Winia's business page, and she has this post up. I told Laura about this earlier today when I talked to her. She has this post up about how when she first saw Tanya Kirkpatrick post about her highest cycle week, she was like, oh my gosh, like Lindsay was cycling like 5 times a week or something. And Tanya had over 300 cycles. And she's like, what? Like, how will that ever happen? So Lindsay Winia had her like highest cycle week, you know, and it was like 371, and her husband was at 100 cycles. So you guys do the math of this one business center, right? And what she's done in 6 years, and I'm telling Ryan about it, and he's like my like never ending cheerleader, right? And he's like, babe, you're doing good. Like that'll happen for you. That'll, you know, like it's coming. You work so hard. And I was like, no, I was like, I'm actually not doing things that I've done in the past. And I was like, I've not spent the last 2 days, 20 hours on Zooms driving my line, like, you know, and I have done that. And there are different seasons of this. But I thought, okay, am I comfortable? Am I comfortable in 5-star? If I really want to max out, Abby O'Neill maxed out her business. What did she do, right? And that fires me up. Like I'm a red and I'm hungry. And not because I need to make XYZ more money, but because I know it's not my best. I know that in the last few weeks, I've had more days paddleboarding and hiking and less training the team, less motivating the team, less prospecting. So motivated by our California team here, I got up 2 hours earlier than I have in a very long time, you know, messaged a buttload of people, like reorganized some stuff. Laura and I are fired up to roll out a Blitz week, you know, and it was because that standard and that mirror, yeah, sorry, Texas, you were originally Cali, but you know what I mean. But so like that mirror of like, is it your best? So as we finish the next 4 weeks, you know, be honest with yourself. Don't make excuses to play smaller, right? Like with the same way you would justify how you're eating and how you're working out or how you show up in a relationship. Like, you know, if you're going to give someone a gift, don't half-ass it, right? Put heart into it. And I just really want you guys to think about that and hold yourself to the standard that you deserve, your team deserves, your family deserves, as we kind of bring the rest of this home. So I'm so proud of you guys. I'm so grateful for you. You have like a 5-minute little potty break or whatever, and I'm super excited for our team call. So I'll see you guys in just a few minutes. Bye, guys.